So hello and welcome. This is Erica Glessing, and I'm so joyful you're with me today on the Creating Business Beyond This Reality Telesummit. And my guest today has an entrepreneurial mindset. She actually walks the talk. She had a little sewing business, I think, right, Wendy, when you were just little. Welcome, Wendy Dillard.
Thank you, Erica. Actually, it was way beyond a sewing business. That's how it started, but it blossomed into a big, huge career where I ended up having a costume manufacturing company. So it was way beyond just a little sewing business.
Do you know that when I was about 10, I used to go to the library and I would just get stacks of books. Like I was reading the whole Laura Ingalls Wilder. I was reading the whole Narnia. I liked the whole thing. And I would leave the library. This was like Palo Alto downtown, and I would walk home with books, and I was just a little book thing. I just like books. And then, right? It's like, isn't that interesting that something that you really like when you're small, you might blossom into something so amazing?
Absolutely. And I totally didn't even expect it. I mean, I just started sewing probably from a home ec class when I was 12 or 13, and it grew into something I really enjoyed. And then I went to college to kind of learn how to do it. Not at all because I intended to make a career out of it. I just wanted to really understand pattern making because I'd always been doing it.
Wow.
And I left getting a fashion design degree, but I didn't, like I said, I didn't expect to make a career out of it. As a matter of fact, when I went into the corporate world, I wanted to find something that I could kind of take what I had learned and learn more about it, but in a on-the-job training kind of thing. So I went to work for a fashion designer, but on the business side, I was an order processor. I worked on a computer, but while I was there, I got to learn every aspect of the business because he had the entire business in-house from designing.
I just want you to pause that. I just want to, one of the things I like to do when I'm interviewing someone, when they say something like that has, my whole body got chills. And so what I liked about it was you were order processing in your area that lit you up.
Yes.
So you're in this area of fashion, you're in this, so if you love consciousness or you love healing and you're good at accounting, you might start out doing the books for massage therapists. I mean, you might focus on doing it, right? So that would be like, what if you focused on a skill set you had? If we're looking at people like wanting to be more entrepreneurial and doing what they love, which really seems like a lot of what you can teach, it seems like if you take a piece of one thing and a piece of the other, it seems like, right?
Right.
That's kind of cool. So tell me a little bit about your chapter, The Entrepreneurial Mindset, and the new book we're talking about.
Well, I have found throughout the wholeness of my life that it wasn't always what I knew that made a difference in how I did business, but how I thought about what I wanted to do. And so, like I said, even with going into my first job, I didn't just take any old job. I thought about what I wanted, and I wanted to learn more about the design industry. I didn't need to have a design job. I just wanted to know more about it. So my mindset was, I'm not going to find it. I don't want to look for a job that has to do with manufacturing refrigerators. I want something that has anything and everything to do with the thing I'm passionate about.
Oh.
And so once I got this job at this fashion house, I thrived there, and I moved from department to department, and I got to know all sorts of things and things that they didn't even teach me at college. And it was excellent for my personal training. And you know what? After about 1.5 years, Erica, I went, I'm kind of done with this. It's time to move on to the next something.
Yeah.
And each corporate thing that I've ever done has built my skill sets for whatever was coming next.
Wow.
So my chapter is really about how to set your mindset in small ways and in big ways. But, you know, as I thought about this interview, the thing that really felt like a theme that I wanted to really share is following my passion comes from an intuitive gut feel. And I have to say that throughout my life, I didn't know that that's what I was doing. I can say that now on the other side of it, but I really just followed my intuition.
Wow.
You know, I didn't even know it was intuition when I was in my 20s and 30s.
Right.
You know, it was just, it's what I wanted to do. It's the direction that felt like the right thing to do. And so off I went.
When
and
I got
never failed.
when I got my first newspaper job, it was just like, well, my parents had been newspaper publishers. And so I was like, my mom's like, well, you know, why don't you get a news reporting job, because you learn research, you learn writing, everything you learn in it you can do in your future, and you obviously can write, you know, because I'd been writing so my first job out of college was a news reporting job. And Wendy, you're absolutely right. Like, I was just sort of going with my gut, because there was nothing at that point that said you studied psychology at University of California, now here's your job, because I wasn't going to be, I knew I didn't want to go further in the medical field.
I get it.
Yeah. I mean, the roadmap sometime, it's that being able to choose something new. Now, tell me a little bit, for our entrepreneur audience, a lot of our audience is trying to kind of get going on their full-time entrepreneurial, and they've been doing part-time, or they don't even know how to make money doing their entrepreneurial. Like, they know there's something else they want to do, but they don't quite know how to turn it into a business. Do you have any advice for someone who's kind of like, maybe they've got maybe they like essential oils or something, but they don't quite know how to make that a business? What do you recommend?
Well, you know, I can't even count how many businesses I've started in my lifetime. There have been so many.
I can't say that.
Oh,
I think I started too.
Okay, I've started at least 20 or 25. There have been a lot. But each one has been, you know, it was kind of like they were hobbies that I had a lot of interest in, and so I wanted to pursue it and see if I could make money at it. Sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. But in terms of, you know, how would I advise somebody who just is starting out and wants to see if, you know, they can make a go of it?
Yeah.
I'd say, don't quit your day job.
Yeah, exactly.
Please don't quit your day job. As a matter of fact, right now I'm in a day job, and it's what produces income for me, and I'm thrilled with it. But you know what? I have always had some kind of entrepreneurial thing on the side.
Nice.
As a matter of fact, for people in the U.S., you know, we have Schedule C on our 1040 tax forms,
right,
which means that you have some kind of a small business or a big business. I have been filling out a Schedule C every year of my life since I was 20, because I have always had some kind of business going on. Always, 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 always.
Do you know, I just want to say in there, for me, there was a big catalyst. I didn't do my first Schedule C till my mom died. So I worked for other people, and then when she died, she was only 63. And I just had that moment where I was like, am I really doing what I love? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I had like that I call it kind of like a come to Jesus moment or something.
Absolutely.
And I went, and ever since 2003 I've had the Schedule C. So I've also worked for other people and had jobs as well, just like you, but I think ever since then I've had my own business and I sometimes just called it communications consulting, and it was just, I might just get money coaching people, like I might just get money helping people with skill sets that I had from all those years of writing. You know, it's like some of that stuck.
Well, you know, in addition to me having my own business, I seem to attract a lot of people who are interested in starting their own business or making some income from something that they love to do. Yeah. And some of the questions that I usually ask them are, okay, so if you were doing this full time, and remember, don't quit your day job, but at some point, if you were doing this full time, who would you be selling this to?
Yeah.
And if somebody doesn't have a clue, I'd say then you're absolutely not ready to jump into this if you don't even know who you're going to sell it to.
Yeah.
You know, and I really ask a lot of business type questions because I have in terms of like accounting. Do you understand what cash flow means? Because if you don't understand cash flow,
You're in trouble.
yeah, you're going to end up living on credit cards, and one day it's all going to come apart.
Yeah,
Your life will
absolutely.
unravel, and you'll be in tears, and you'll be calling me as a life coach to try to put it all back together. So, I will say that as much as I have an entrepreneurial spirit and I love being an entrepreneur, I think in a way there's a misnomer that just anybody who has an idea can start a business.
Absolutely.
I don't think that's necessarily the case.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I also think that we want to lose any judgment on a good position that you love working in a firm. It's like for Intel Corporation, my job, I'm going to tell you my job. You're just going to die. I actually got paid. I went to work. I mean, I liked the blue color. That was so funny. My daughter's like, how'd you get that job? I'm like, well, the color of the logo was really pretty. I love the blue. So I go to Intel and I said, I'm doing this science event for kids. Would you like to give it some money? And they said, well, we can't consider your request because we're knee deep in resumes. And I said, resumes for what? And that was my admin later on the phone. That was her, Elizabeth, on the phone. And we're still friends 25 years later. And she said, so I turned in my resume for this position, which was giving out money for a corporation. and writing about it. And I got to write for the Intel magazine. So I wrote for the Intel magazine stories of philanthropy, that people did good news. Anyone that did something nice in the community, I could write about it. So I'd write about any nice things that people were doing. So if an employee was like helping an organization for the blind with their technical experience, I'd write about him helping these organizations. Or I'd go to one of the museums and I'd write about our gifts to that museum. And so yes, that did help Intel. In fact, I got so much, in fact, people used to joke in the community that Intel that year got so much publicity, they just didn't want to see one more good news story.
Oh my gosh.
Because
that's amazing.
Yeah, and you know what it was though? So it was a corporate job, Wendy, but I loved it. I loved going to work. I mean, I think the judgment on working for someone else, and you can be entrepreneurial at your position, and get some of the money and let the other person make more money. I mean, really, I want to get bigger with when we're talking about creating our own business beyond our reality, that you could have a book on the side. You could have a book on the side and keep your day job forever.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And what would be bad about that?
I bring all of the skills of who I am and what brings passion into my life. I bring it into my day job. I mean, I'm a coach on the side, but yet I do coaching with my colleagues.
But you love your coaching so much, Wendy. I don't even know if saying it on the side, I'm wondering if there's a different way of framing that, because your coaching, when I look at it, because I'm psychic, right? It has this kind of sacred value place. It's like a sacred space, that coaching relationship you have with someone. Is that resonate? Am I seeing it?
Well, when I call it on the side, I'm saying in terms of when I make money on the side as a coach.
Yeah.
That's a side business that I have scheduled seat income.
I get it.
But I use my coaching in my day job on a regular basis.
Nice.
And there once was a point, this was years ago, where I was talking to one of my colleagues, and we probably spent an hour and a half really doing a coaching session. That's not what I expected when she called me with a problem, but that's really where it led.
Wow.
And I said, gosh, I don't know. Should I feel guilty that I just took an hour and a half of my company's time doing coaching? Because that's not what I'm being paid for. And she stopped me dead in my tracks. And she said, are you kidding? She said, the work that you just did with me and helping uncover these new things will allow me to go back into my clients' offices and make such a profound difference. She said, you absolutely should consider what you were doing, absolutely something that the company would applaud. And I was like, huh. And that gave me a freedom at my day job to be all of who I am. and bring
Aw.
all of my skills into my day job,
Yeah.
not just the thing that my role, if you will, um,
Yeah.
requires. And
So
so I'm kind of me wherever I go.
let's just do a little bit more on um, the entrepreneur mindset. Let's just talk a little bit more about that. And it's a perfect segue into your how you can help our listeners um, change their mindset to be more able to have a successful experience as an entrepreneur.
Okay, so you set it up by asking me a specific question.
So what are some characteristics that you notice in people you've helped to start their own business or be an entrepreneur? What are some of the characteristics you've noticed in the success stories?
I would say one of the most profound things is that they're willing to try something and fail at it. And then the second thing is when they fail at it, that they don't look at it as a failure, but they look at it as just a little bit of information that helps them to reevaluate so they can keep moving forward. And
Wow.
without that, businesses fail and they die. But
Wow.
businesses that thrive don't really look at a failure ever as a failure. It's just information.
Wow.
So to me, that's probably the biggest mindset
So growing pains,
thought.
taking the growing pains and turning that into something that gives you a even higher results. Is that what you're saying? Like
Yeah.
taking something that just didn't work and then figuring it out and then changing that into an evolution.
Yes, and one of the parts of my chapter, I talk about when I was a costume designer. I recall having this Renaissance gown that I was working on, and the client was about to pick it up in about 2 hours. And I looked at it and thought, oh my gosh, this is boring and ugly.
Oh
And I'm like, I've got about 2 hours to make a difference here. And I just stared at it and see, if I didn't have what I'll call the entrepreneurial mindset and I just went, oh, I'm screwed. They'll hate it. They'll pick it up. They'll never call me
no! Yeah,
again.
exactly.
Instead, I went, you know what? No, there has got to be a way. There's got to be a way. And I just stared at it
Wow.
until some creative ideas began to flow. And before I knew it, I was pulling trims off the shelf and I was sewing things on it. And all of a sudden there came a point I went, I'm done. Oh my God, this is fabulous. And that to me is such a pivotal moment.
Yeah.
It was a pivotal moment in my life as an entrepreneur, because I realized that because I didn't just stop, because I didn't just accept failure as inevitable, but I knew that only success was inevitable for me,
Yeah.
that I was able to turn something that was really subpar for my standards and turned it into one of the best pieces of work I'd ever done.
Oh.
And that really catapulted everything I've done ever since, because I don't have a failure mentality. I use that word sometimes because other people understand what failure is to them, but I use it to pull them out of failure thinking into success is inevitable thinking.
Oh my goodness.
But you have to allow yourself to own, you know what? I can turn anything into a success so long as I could keep going and look at what I've got, check out the results, reevaluate, and keep going.
I love it.
Until you get success.
This conversation was so much fun. I loved hearing about the costume. And tell us a little bit more about how, where can someone go to find out more and maybe even hire you to help them grow their business?
The best way to find me is through my website. It's wendydillard.com, just like it sounds, WENDYDILLARD.com. There you will find out how I do law of attraction coaching mostly. And my email address is there, my phone number is there. And something that I want to just make all listeners aware of, you can pick up the phone and just call me. You don't have to decide, oh, I want to hire you. If you just want to have a conversation with me because somehow things I've said resonate with you, you know what? I just love to talk to people because you never know where a conversation might take you, me, or us together.
Oh, I love it. Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you, Erica, for having me. I appreciate it.